and gentlemen,
This
it is my honor to introduce
Principles of Passion. Principles of Passion. Chris Thomas.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
I followed my passion.
I have a dream.
And Dominic Samina.
You better come to work.
This is it.
Perfection.
Oh, it's about to happen.
With Senior Vice President at the Federal Savings Bank, Javier Garcia.
Just keep going. Find that thing you love. If you can find that thing that really gives you joy, that'll be it.
The trick to success in this life is to accumulate teammates and not opponents.
I've been ready for this my whole life.
Are you ready?
It's Principles of Passion.
Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being patient. Sometimes things just happen. You gotta bob and weave. You gotta deal with the change. Right? And that's what it boils down to. Today's episode is about change and about being able to deal with it accordingly. We have Javier Martinez.
Javier Garcia.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Those days for me, man. Javier Garcia.
It happens.
Senior Vice President of the Federal Savings Bank, right?
Correct.
So can you tell us more about that?
So essentially, I'm in residential lending. So I take care of first-time home buyers, not only first-time home buyers, but investment buyers as well, too. Try to advise them as to which is the best loan vehicle for their specific investment. I've been lucky enough that I got into the business or the industry at the age of 16 years old. I was working for a top-producing loan officer at the time as an assistant, and I never looked back. I've been thankful that this is the only career path I've ever had or chose to take a part in. It's an addicting business that I like to say. It's not only lucrative, but unlike selling stocks or bonds or anything like that, with some other lucrative businesses out there, you're actually helping, home ownership. And it's just been proven that as communities have more home ownership concentration, the better the communities do. So as I've matured, it's not just been about the money, and it's actually what we're doing in those communities to be able to kind of set a little bit of a better establishment for the children that are being raised in those communities as well.
So you said you got into it when you were 16?
Yeah, 16 years old.
So how did that happen?
Essentially, very smart man. Went over to our high school and recruited a bunch of 16-year-old kids. Paid us the minimum wage at the time. I think it was like $6.50 an hour, plus a $100 bonus for every application that we took for his loan officers. And they would literally come and pick us up at the high school at 3 o'clock, drop us back off at 8 o'clock. And it was just a really good learning experience. We were basically 16-year-old telemarketers dialing for dollars.
That's what it is, man.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. And we haven't had an opportunity to really interact as much as I'd like to do with some guys. You came referred from a good friend of mine, Leo. So I just appreciate you just being all in and coming on the show. I think that's great, man.
No, absolutely. Kind of did a little bit of homework on what you guys have going on, and I saw exactly where your mission statement is, and it's something that sits close to heart for me.
Yeah.
So it was not even a question. Definitely wanted to be a part of it.
For sure. No, I appreciate that, man. So just for those of y'all tuning in, obviously we always appreciate new people coming into the show. For those of you that have been with us the whole time, it's had ups and downs, right? I think what we need to look at is how the change has progressed us. I know Dom has gone through his own changes. I've gone through my personal changes in life. For you, as you've kind of gone through this wave of trying to define yourself, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
I want to say that life throws all kinds of curveballs at you. And one of those things where, kind of like an old saying, bad things happen to good people, right? I've had several different changes. This industry, in a way, throws a lot of different changes at you. The market, there's always a bubble, right? And you have to adapt to those changes. I like to say that in life, our wants and our needs change every 5 or 6 years. What you wanted as a 20-year-old is completely different than what you want as a 25-year-old, and so forth. I think I've gone through a little bit of everything, and that's why I kind of had a humbling of sort. I'm a single dad now. Just recently got divorced, adjusting to being a producing banker and entity there at the Federal Savings Bank while still being able to handle my responsibilities as a father. But it's something that was needed, for sure. Because I think a lot of the times when you're very ambitious and you set really high goals and standards for yourself, sometimes you may sacrifice family time for that. But there's always a way to solve that. And I think that's one of the biggest philosophies is don't concentrate so much on the problem, concentrate on the solution. And for me, I've staffed up, gotten assistants that are able to handle the workload, kind of handle the customer service aspect for a lot of our clients that we're currently, helping to put into these homes. And then I'm kind of like the doctor. I always kind of like to say you have the receptionist, you have the nurse, and you have the doctor. The receptionist schedules everything out, makes sure that everything is in order, make sure that all billing is done accordingly.
Right.
You got the nurse who comes in, weighs you, takes your vitals, your blood pressure. Then you got the doctor who comes in, looks at the chart, and prescribes you whatever you need to be prescribed, or diagnoses for a solution.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I have going on with the Federal Savings Bank right now. So it's definitely some changes and some obstacles that I had to overcome. But now I'm kind of reaping the benefits of being able to still be a high producing person, still be able to have these ambitious goals of where I want to be, but spend 50% of the time with my son and enjoying those little moments that I think I would have missed out had it not been for that divorce.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the challenging parts in our life can actually be the eye-opening parts.
Absolutely.
Whether it be a divorce, whether it be a loss of someone. It's like in those times of change where we're used to dealing with one thing or one person for so long, I think in those times is where we really see who we are and how we kind of define ourselves a little bit more.
Absolutely. I kind of live my life by a quote, Martin Luther King, and I may butcher it up, but it's like you really define the character of a man in the time of adversity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you really do.
Absolutely. You know what? I have a few. I have a few Martin Luther King quotes. I have two idols. Well, three. One being my mom. I always live up to her. Stevie Wonder, great musician, and Martin Luther King, a great person, wordsman, and believer in change. So for sure, love that. First of all, being a former Marine, changes forever. What comes to mind? And let me ask Dom. When you think of change happening successively and progressively every day in your life and it being forever, what kind of comes to mind when you think of that?
I don't know. When I hear that, I kind of feel like it's the same thing as you were saying. It's just, it just comes, and when it comes for a certain period of time, and then they change. Those things change. So, I don't know. To me, forever, I don't know. I see it as more of temporary. It comes and goes depending on the situations and the experiences that happen in life.
Yeah, I like that. What I'm starting to learn, because I would love to say that I've learned it, but what I'm starting to learn based on some of the demographics I'm working with on staffing and as well as just dealing with my son, is that, to your point of it coming in waves, you're always going to get to a point of leveling up, but then when you get there, you're going to want to level up more.
Yeah,
if you're
because there's a new
progressive in
branch
nature.
that kind of breaks out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I got there. It's like I experienced a change. Now I'm in this comfort state, for a couple of weeks. Now it's like, okay,
Right.
what's next for me? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think with success, I consider myself, got my mother, here with my son right now. And I consider myself a true product of what this country is all about, right? You got immigrants who come here, work really hard, try to instill that immigrant mindset in their children, their American children. I was kind of joking, tell everyone I thought I was illegal for a good portion of my life just because my parents were scared, because of their current resident status. I think they became citizens when I was at the age of 9. But just true humble beginnings. And I've achieved great success in my life. And I think one of those things is where you do need those humblings, right? And then what's next? Because money isn't everything. I've been able to have, great years, financial years, and when you're young, that whole young and dumb type of situation, you're chasing women, you're chasing, jewelry, cars, nice clothing,
all
things
the
like that.
immediate things.
Yeah,
Right.
all the immediate things, and you kind of realize later on in life that's why it's a maturation process, where you're asking yourself, well, what's next? Right now, I'm at the stage of my life where I'm thankful to know that I can turn on that money machine, whatever you want to call it, in regards to helping people and assisting people. And in my business, if you're a loan officer, if you're a real estate agent, your problem is probably you need to make money and you're out there and you're trying to get to the next transaction. So that's your problem. And most of the people that we service are trying to get into a home. They're trying to be able to achieve that dream of home ownership. So I do believe in helping other people solve their problems will solve your problems as well too. And at this point in my life, I'm asking myself, well, now that I have a 3-year-old, that changed the whole dynamic for me entirely. It's like something clicked the minute that you bring in a life into this world, where you want to leave this world a better place than how you arrived.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of reaching into my philanthropic approach. In particular, in our industry, sometimes you have people out there, who are trying to give back to the community, doing fundraisers and, doing the whole turkey giveaways, backpack giveaways, and things like that. And I ask myself, I'm like, is that really helping the community? Because if you really think about most of these communities, what they really need is education, financial literacy, right?
Yep.
So that's my next step. Being able to build some workshops where I could teach people not to make those mistakes. Just had a young man come into the office the other day, 26 years old, starting to make some good money now, and he was at a Range Rover dealership, and he was taking a look at a really beautiful car, $790 monthly payment.
I love it.
His mother yanked his ear. She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, by the time you're done paying this Range Rover, it's probably going to be about 3 additional models, and it's not going to be the hottest Range Rover on the block, right? So he came into my office and, kind of did a whole rundown in regards to how he could build $1 million in real estate investments in the next 4 years by being able to use first-time homebuyer products and just, building a little bit of sweat equity. He's only 26. To be 30 or 31 years old with $1 million in a real estate portfolio is a big thing. And, he was kind of like, he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm very glad that my mom made me second think that and asked me to speak to you. And, it's one of those things where it's financial literacy, especially in the minority community, sometimes isn't there. So that's the next step. You got to be able to teach people and let them know what they can do, how they should spend their money. Right. One of the biggest problems with Americans, I like to say, and kind of a lot of people, but more in America than anything else, where we chase just things that don't really bring us any value, is that we work really hard for the money, but we don't make the money work hard for us.
Yeah. You said a lot. One of the things I think that really stood out to me was understanding where you are and like kind of where you want to be, and I think that's I think there's a lag there a little bit.
Can you elaborate a little? Like, what's the lag?
I think that when you're trying to make a change, again, this is speaking from my experience, when you're trying to make a change, you have to be very comfortable in where you're coming from, right? And I don't think a lot of people are comfortable in that and don't understand what their true value is, because they've had certain negative things happen in their life, or because of the location they lived in, they've seen negative things happen around them. I think until you can, and you don't have to be 100% comfortable in it, right? Because I think we're, again,
You're
always trying to grow.
So you're never really 100%.
Right.
No.
But until you can know, hey, this is that, and this is this, right? This is the past, right? It's not a weight. It's a repellent. I'm trying to push myself away from going back to that because I'm trying to change for this, right? The lack is, what is this, right? I think people are lacking what the vision is, and so it's very hard to change and move towards something when you don't know what you're moving towards and you're steady looking at what was behind you.
It's like a reprogramming of your brain. Right? A lot of people kind of tell me sometimes I have crazy ambitious goals. But the mind is very powerful. All right? And the brain doesn't know the difference between a reality and a dream. Right? So it's about discipline. It's about really believing in yourself that you can achieve all the things that you want to achieve. Right? You're a Marine. You've been in boot camp, things like that, right? Those boot camps are made to break people. It's to really separate the men from the boys, right? And when you set the mindset that you will overcome those obstacles, and you are no different than anyone else who's superseded those obstacles already, you just empower yourself, and anything is possible. My father, probably in his best year, probably made $45,000 a year, and I know that I crushed that number before I was the age of 21, right? So for me, it's kind of been a mindset where I grew up in Old Irving, the Old Irving area, and that's like a melting pot in the city, because you have some $1 million homes, you have people who are professionals, and then you also had apartment buildings, which is where I grew up in, right? And I remember going to my buddy Owen's house, and his father was a doctor, his mother was an attorney. Nothing like my apartment, right? But I knew that it was possible. You just got to put in the work. I think a lot of people don't want to put in the work. They make excuses as to why they can't do something, as opposed to put their big boy pants on or big girl pants on and put their best foot forward and really believe in themselves that they can be able to obtain those goals, they can reach those goals. But it's not going to be easy. They're going to have to put in some work, right? A lot of people kind of ask me, like, how do you do? I wake up like a 4:35 a.m. in the morning type of person. I wake up, get my workout in. I used to be 327 pounds at one point, right? And everybody always asks me, how do you do it?
I would have never guessed it.
How do you do it? Yeah. It's like very easy. Like it's
just do it.
Beginning of time.
Just do it.
Eat good. Yeah. Get your workout in. Work up a sweat. Yeah. And it's kind of like balancing a checkbook, So it's very easy. But a lot of people just don't want to put it.
Too, right?
And it's not. I feel like there's a misconception of that term easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. I think it's very simple to just do the same thing every day, but I don't necessarily think it's easy, because discipline is one of the hardest things to achieve in life. So I think it's simple to get up and work out every day, or to fast 3 days a week, or to make sure you don't eat meat on these days, or blah, 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 whatever healthy you want to do. The hard part is doing it every day.
So I have a question to ask. So you say it's simple. For you, for us, because we understand something, but at one point you didn't understand it and it was hard for you, right?
Right.
So there's always something that has to click, like we've been saying.
It's an enlightening moment. I actually posted today, by coming on the show, and just to kind of share something personal. When I was 16 years old, my parents were having difficulties in their marriage, right? So like everyone, if anyone's ever been through like a broken home or anything like that, where the parents are having some issues, you realize that all of a sudden it's them. Sometimes the children are a little bit on the back burner. And I've always been a straight A student and everything else, but that junior year, I was starting to hang out with the wrong people, starting to be rebellious. I was in ROTC Academy. I was actually one of the first beta test assignments military academy. And I remember Sergeant Durant pulled me to the side. He's like, hey, what's going on? This isn't you. What's going on? What's happening? And I didn't want to open up at the time. He got me to crack. Told him, this is what's happening at home. Parents are not together. And it was an eye-opening moment at 16, because he was real with me. He didn't give me like the classic teacher talk or anything like that.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. He's like, Javi, he's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but in this world, you're on your own. The two people who are predetermined genetically to give a shit about you, sorry for dropping one,
you're good.
are going through this right now, and right now you're on the back burner. He's like, so you got to take care of yourself. Stop making these excuses or anything else, because you have a ton of potential. He's like, but you have to realize that you're in this life on your own. I'm not telling you that people aren't going to be there and contribute to anything, but you got to do everything on your own. And you know your ticket out of this situation. Get your grades, go to school, get your education, and keep chasing your dream. It's like, don't let what's happening at home right now with your mom and dad deter what you are destined for. And that's why I keep a very real approach. I've lost friends because I'm not a pity party person. I'm a person where it's like, if you tell me a problem, I'll probably tell you what I feel may be the solution to that problem, right, and what you need to do. But if you're looking for oh, poor you, It's just not in my DNA to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's easy, but it's not easy. Nothing is ever easy, right? But it is easy. You just got to create that mindset and tell yourself that you can do it and put your best foot forward and take action. I always tell people, I always give my business plan to anyone who ever comes across me if they want to be successful in the business that I'm in. And I remember one of my buddies one time, he's like, aren't you like afraid that? I was like, no. I'm like, I'll share it. I'm like, but they have to take the action
Enlighten people
to actually do it.
to help them grow. But
Help them grow,
you gotta dig deep.
You got to dig deep, and they actually have to do the actions that are going to make them successful. But I always kind of believe in that whole pay it forward. A lot of people have paid it forward to me. A lot of people who have, taken that coffee appointment or that lunch appointment or that dinner appointment for me to dig their brain and see exactly what's made them, successful. And I've always I've had really good people in my life. I honestly say that whole adage of like, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
I had great teachers, my sergeants, even my dad's employer, where I had my first part-time job. They always instilled like those hardworking values and not settling for certain things, And this country can give you everything. That's why, like, in a way, it's very controversial, right? But President Trump, I remember when he was elected and everybody was devastated. And for me, it was one of those situations where it was actually enlightening because he has that mindset, right? If anything, what he showed me is that he believed in himself so much that he was going to be president. He manifested his own destiny, right? So why can't we all manifest our own?
I really like that. What scares me is if we all did that, I don't know if we'd be in the best place. I truly love everything you said because I think it really boils down to digging deep, right, and understanding what you bring to the table, what your value is. There's actually a quote. So I don't know if you guys know Rumi, but he was a 13th century Persian poet.
Okay.
And a quote that resonates well with just the digging deep to yourself that he said was, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself." Right? And like, to me, that's so powerful because, you mentioned it earlier, there's always people that can critique and be critics. But until you bring a solution to the table, right, until you say, oh, okay, the situation went this way, sure, they were wrong, but what could I have done differently to change it, right? Then you can't really invoke change in people, right, until you first look at like what you can do to change the situation. Maybe you reacted the wrong way. Yeah. Maybe you didn't say something wrong. Maybe you didn't do something wrong. But maybe just the facial expression that you gave led someone to believe that you felt some type of way. So I think it's important for us, as we're in this age of political separation, that we also look towards, like, how do we collaborate better? Right? I think it's by understanding people. But before you understand someone else, you got to dig deep and understand yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, with that point, I totally agree with you. But I mean, at one point, it gets to something where it's like you can only do so much. Maybe you didn't say anything. Maybe there's something that the opposing party needs to work on as well. Absolutely. So it's like you said, just digging deeper and finding yourself. But, if you try to talk to somebody and it doesn't go the way you wanted it to and you tried everything, I mean, that's not on you. You did everything. You were the bigger person. Right. And obviously you understand that you walked away and there's something that they still need to work on and find in themselves.
And not always going to make everyone happy.
Exactly.
But
that's
at the end of the day, like you were saying, you're just never going to make everyone happy. But as long as you're truthful in your own heart about how you feel about something, you kind of have to get that message across. But that collaboration is key, right? That's definitely key. I actually had that eye-opening moment where someone said, well, what are you going to do about it? Because I did. I was like, well, what's going on in these specific... I'm a north side kid. I grew up in the northwest side of Chicago. So, for me, my mother told us if we went south of North Avenue, we were in trouble. You know what I mean? Because they worked really hard to make sure that we were in the northwest side of Chicago, what they deemed to be, less risky neighborhood and, less chance of us getting involved with the wrong crowds and things like that. So when I started dealing with real estate and seeing the different spectrums of how business is done on the north side compared to the south side, I did do a lot of critiquing, right? And I almost didn't even want to be a part of that type of business, just because I didn't feel like it was something that was in my moral compass ethical. So I prefer to stay away from and shy away from it. Throughout my career, a lot of people are like, you're bilingual, you're Spanish, you could go out and kill it in the Spanish market. But I didn't like that market because of some of the things that were going on in that market, or the way people were transacting. I like to say, like, taking advantage of your own community, right? In a lot of cases, because of the financial illiteracy with a lot of those first-time home buyers, they were taken advantage of. My parents were taken advantage of. When I took a look at their closing documents, when I, finally was in the business, I realized how many points they were being charged, what kind of practices were, the subprime lending practice was really, really dirty, right? A lot of people, all they cared about was getting the home. They would sign any document that you put in front of them to get that home, and not actually going over everything, the terms and conditions of exactly what they were getting themselves into. That's why there was a mortgage collapse, that big bubble
situation right now.
Right. So like a lot of that information isn't really like given to this community, and it was more of like a stay hush. We're making a lot of money, and we like it that way. But I had a really close friend of mine who's like, well, you got to do something about that. If you feel like you can give them that financial literacy, and if you feel like you're someone who can provide them with a better lending product where they're not going to be paying all those fees, or they're not going to be paying such a high yield on their interest rate, then you need to help them. And, it's one of those situations where it's a gut check moment. You're like, all right, now you got to put your money where your mouth is. And you have to get into that and really dig deep and see exactly how you can affect that community. And as I've gotten a little bit more involved in that community, there's a lot of skilled workers, right? So there's trade jobs that you could probably bring into the marketplace where you can kind of help them be able to get to that level of income where they don't have to work always an hourly job, and settle for it as well too.
What do you? You raise a good point there. What do you think is the biggest challenge in getting the skilled, or at least the unskilled workers, into the roles that are newly skilled or entry level skilled?
I think information. I think a lot of them think that it is far more expensive than it actually is. I don't think that they think that there's a lot of different hurdles to being able to get, into the professional schools or whatever they have. A lot of times they just don't have any information, right? They have this idea that it's harder and it's difficult, or else everybody else would be doing it, right? Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it's very easy. I see some of them, sometimes they're spending money on pickup trucks or whatever it is, vehicles and things like that. I take a look at their credit reports, and it's a $500, $600 note, and their rent is like $800 at the moment. And it's like, well, do you really think that was a wise investment? Right? That could have gone.
They want the glamour.
They want the glamour, where easily they could have invested that in themselves. And I always kind of tell everyone, you got to invest in yourself every day. I don't sacrifice my workout in the morning for anyone. I bought myself a treadmill. My son's he's not a morning person, right? He's only 3, so he likes to sleep in. I go down to my basement and I get my workout in. I got a couple kettlebells and everything else. Because to me, it's something where it's an investment to myself, right? I get to see some people, they don't age gracefully, and it's because they don't really take care of themselves. So your body is something, that's your temple. You got to take care of your temple. My routine is I wake up every morning, I meditate for 5 minutes. I thank God for everything that I do have. I thank God for the people that He's put around me. I tell Him what I want as well too. A lot of people are like, universe, God, whatever. You got to talk to the universe and tell it what you want, why you want it, and who's going to benefit from you receiving it. And man, oh man, I got to tell you, it speaks back. It has a funny way of doing it. Then I get my workout in, and then back to the grind, do my work stuff. The days that I have my son, he's in daycare until about 4 o'clock, but my Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays that I have him on those weekends, we're out and we're doing something.
Hanging out.
And I kind of involve him a little bit in my lifestyle, because my father involved me in his lifestyle and the way that he worked. He was a wholesale meat salesman, And I remember just a funny story, actually, which is funny, where it's like a compliment can go a long way. And I remember there was this woman. She wasn't the most beautiful woman in the world. And she would come into the store all the time. Well, we kind of grew up. We grew up in the Northwest side, but my dad's shop was over at Morris Meats over in Maywood. And I remember my dad used to always sweet talk her. It's like, how you doing, sweetie? How's your day? You know, you look beautiful. And I remember one day I was having a bad day because I was digging through like the chicken wings in the ice bucket and stuff like that. I had to get the stuff out. So it's like you're in a butcher shop, you smell it. I'm 14 years old. And I remember like just looked at my dad like this like just snarky comment. I'm like, are you blind? Like, you call that woman a beautiful, you know, whatever, and my sweetheart and everything else. And he's like, you know why she comes in here? He's like, she comes in here twice a week. And he's like, I may be the only person who's given her that compliment. And if that's making her day, then so be it. But she's a consistent customer that comes in here and buys from us twice a week. And that's why you have food on the table, a roof over your head, and clothes on your back. Ever since then,
Got you to see it differently.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's like it goes a long way. It's a combination of a bunch of different things.
So here's a quote that it's an unknown quote, and everything you said is eerily enough directly in line with this. We often want everything to stay the same, but feelings fade and people change. There are people who we think will be in our lives forever that become distant memories of our past. Do not fret. Feelings fading and people changing is a part of life. And if you are growing as a person, then not everyone will grow with you. You don't have to forget your past. Instead, learn from what it is and use this wisdom to choose the people who will surround you in the future. Dom, I'll kind of leave this open for you a little bit. I know that just based on you and I and our friendship growing, I feel like that you're one that lets the past be the past, and you're really progressive in moving forward. Yeah. What's been your biggest challenge in coming to that mindset? And again, I know this is kind of on the spot, but I did that on purpose because I want to know. I think a lot of people feel like getting there is easy.
Yeah.
So what's been your biggest?
I mean, my biggest thing is, to be honest, what you said is just like that past itself. It's like you can acknowledge. It's easy to acknowledge what's like bad for you, but it's another thing to take the initiative to let go of it, change it, something like that. But yeah, I'd say it happened about like 3 or 4 years ago. It just something clicked, and it was like, all right, these people around me are still doing the same thing, and I know what I want, and I want to take that step with them, but they're not ready. And something just clicked, and it was like, I have to sacrifice. Because like you said earlier, it's like you only got yourself at the end of the day. No one else is waking up in your shoes except you. So you have to take that initiative to grow. So for me, when I hear that quote, it really resonates just because it's like sometimes it's not easy to do what you know is painful to you in the moment, but it will pay off in the future. And you know, it's going to suck for a while. You know, there's no way around it. There's not all sunshine and roses. There's hardships that go along with it, but it all depends on like what you want. And there's things that you have to let go. And like us, Chris, it's like, you know, if I was in that mindset 4 years ago and you were like, do you want to do this podcast? I probably would have said no, just because I'd rather go out with my friends and do stupid stuff. But it's like, this aligns with like my goals. And, you know, you have to realize what you want and how you want to change the world. And for me, I've been asking for a bigger platform because I go on Snapchat. You know, I do my little morning peps to give people like that one up, because you never know. And believe me, I always give feedback on it. People just randomly hit me up like, oh, you know, you're goofy or whatever, but, you know, they laugh, they smile, and they'll tell me like, that made my day though. Like, keep doing you, and that's what I want. And it's like you said, just paying it forward and just always trying to be that better person and just brighten people up, because that compliment can go a long way for somebody, and you never know what the world would do for you or the people around you, because all in all, it's big, but it's a really small world. And you're not going to know that if you can't change or let go of things that hold you down, because you have to grow by yourself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where sometimes it's a little bit lonely.
Yeah.
When you're first taking those first steps. Like I remember when I was 23 years old, and you know, I've been thankful that I was in the industry at a very young age. So I actually used the platform of Facebook, you know, MySpace, Instagram's, you know, been around for the last couple of years, but mostly Facebook. And I remember my friends making fun of me. It's like, oh, there's a loan guy. You need a loan? You need a loan? I remember coming to a kegger and be like, oh, there's Javi. He's going to
Loan guy, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the secret for me, for my success, is just I haven't cared what anyone had to say because they're not paying my bills.
Exactly.
Right? They're not providing for me. Yeah, you could go ahead and have a good time with them, go out and BS, but at the end of the day, you're in it by yourself, right? So I never cared. I kind of ignored them for a while. I never like unfollowed or blocked anyone or unfriended just because I think like that's more energy than you need to spend on something like that. But I remember specifically and vividly when I was like 25, 26 years old. I had already put in some work in my specific field of work. I was starting to reap some of the benefits, that come with that. And a lot of my friends who were still in school and college, they're still living off of their parents. They're still with mom and dad, the kind of whole failure to launch type of situation. And I realized that I did it the right way. I was so goal-oriented and focused on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to become just because I was surrounded by very successful individuals. The average age of my friends in my 20s was like 45 to 56. Yeah. Right? So that's why I kind of consider myself a little bit of an old soul. Like I'm like the tailspin end of a millennial, right? I was born in 83, but I have a lot of those Generation X, millennial type of qualities. I kind of like to say that my generation specifically was the first one that had the rug pulled from under them. I think in our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, you went to college, you were assured you were going to get a good job. Well, most of my friends, when they were getting out of college, was at the peak of the recession. There was no jobs. No one was out there giving you 50, 60, 75,000 a year jobs right off the bat. Right. I remember for a while, I'm a college dropout, and I had a Northwestern engineer with a master's degree working for me, selling loans, right? So it's kind of one of those situations where you just kind of have to tune everyone out and also surround yourself with people who are going to inspire you on a daily basis. I take a look at my circle of friends now, and I still have my buddies, that I had from high school, and we still get together every once in a while. We all have kids now and stuff like that, so we try to get together for the kids' birthdays and things like that. But I take a look at the real circle of friends that I currently have now, and they're all people who help me elevate my game. They're all people who are striving for something more, something bigger, the next big challenge, and it really pushes you. I got two of my buddies, Lauren Stunning and Mo Datka. We just finished doing like some triathlon over in Alcatraz, yesterday. And I was kind of taking a look at it. I was like, that's pretty badass. Like, I've never thought about doing it.
You trying to sign up?
No, I may. Honestly, like, just kind of seeing their journey. But it's like one of those things that you got to set for yourself as challenges, right? I'm thankful right now that, business is, kind of an autopilot. And that doesn't take as much of my time. It's still time-consuming. So
let me ask you this. How do you provoke change?
Wanting more growth. Like right now, my main thing is my growth right now, where I want to grow exponentially is in the ability to make a change in people, kind of like what he said. I'm no longer just posting stuff about mortgages and, real estate or anything like that. Posting more things that are going to be able to influence people into maybe snapping out of that funk. I've never gone through depression ever in my life, and I went through it while I was going through my divorce, right? And it was an eye-opening moment because I remember you asking myself, like, how do people get depression, or like how do they stay in this state, right? But I went through it. I was fighting Cook County Courthouse in regards to why I deserve to have 50% custody of my son, right? The main judge is like, well, Mr. Garcia, you work 7 days a week. How are you going to be able to do that? It's like, that's my God-given right to be there for my son. I'm not a weekend dad. It made me depressed. I was like, wow, I've been a straight arrow. I'm a contributor to society. I make good income. And I have to prove to the judge as to why I deserve 50% custody for my child. It was some demons that I had to overcome. And I realized that a lot of people...
Those demons, though, when you say overcome, why do you think that those were coming up then? And I'm trying to get the viewers to...
I think because you get angry, right? I'm a very strong-willed individual. But once you get angry and you start...
Like these triggers just come out of nowhere.
Triggers, like...
It's like, what? But they're there.
You're there.
It's the emotions.
The emotion.
That are bringing out what the insecurities are that may not be necessarily holding you back for this specific instance, but holding you back overall.
Yeah, it's
And,
like you were
they
saying
start
earlier.
to come into
Yeah.
your mind. Like,
The mind is
are
strong.
those really what's holding me back for this instance?
Absolutely. And I think in order for you to be successful, you have to have such a strong will where sometimes you kind of ignore the noise, right? But I felt the race card for the very first time in my life during that process. And,
In what way? In what way?
you know what? I just I didn't feel like I had the proper expectations. My wife is, she's white, she's Irish, my ex-wife, and I felt like I just kind of came in there and I wasn't given like a fair shot. I had to fight for everything. I had to prove that I could be a good father, right? I think I've always been a good father. Was I absent? Yes, I was absent in the beginning, but I was the only breadwinner in the home, right? How do the bills
life.
get paid if that's
It's
what I
life.
have to do?
Absolutely.
But I had to learn how to adapt. I had to learn how to adjust. My business is also very demanding, right? You're taking people's problems and making them your own. They don't have enough money for the down payment. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. They have problems with their credit. Don't worry, I'll fix it. We have to switch to different lending products. You have attorneys, you have real estate agents who are constantly calling you because they also need that check. They need that transaction to close. So between that combination, going through the divorce, not even being able to be in my home during that divorce process, my premarital asset, you're angry. And as a kid that's grown up in not the easiest of circumstances, and you've overcome so much, all of a sudden you're just angry. I kind of like to say I was like the Hulk, for that 24-month process. All of a sudden, it's like just one trigger, and you're looking to smash something, right? So it was very humbling, but at the same time, like when I remember I'm actually wearing the socks that I wore for my settlement and my divorce, which are 4-leaf clovers. She's Irish, so you always kind of have to have that little bit of yeah. And they told me, Mr. Garcia, you have 50% custody, and this is how, I have my son every Monday
like
and
this?
Tuesday. My attorney was like, dude, calm down. And I was like, you know what, this was an expensive process, but I finally got what I wanted. I wanted my son.
Right.
And now I have him every Monday and Tuesday and alternating every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I tell everyone, I'm like, I won a battle, but I felt like I was left for dead. Right? Like you're just exhausted. It was right during the holidays when everything was wrapped up, like at the end of October. So we're going into Thanksgiving, you're going into Christmas. I didn't even want to go to see my family just because I didn't want everybody asking me about the divorce or like how everything was. I haven't been used to being in a weak position. But I promised myself that this year was going to be my year. And I shot out of the gate like a man possessed. And the main purpose was like, you're going to do things differently this time. Change. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're not doing it to make a lot of money to get Gucci's, Ferraris, and all this stuff. Like, I want you to actually be a contributor. I want you to actually provide change.
Better person.
Yes.
Help other people.
Paying it forward.
Absolutely, paying it forward.
Yeah.
And just kind of realizing how strong we can be as influencers in a lot of ways. Like, similar to the way that you say it, where you have people reaching out to you, and you're like, man, I really needed to hear that. Or, like, this really resonated to me because I'm going through something like this right now. Okay. And just kind of providing that advice. And I kind of believe in that God puts us in different situations to learn, but also to teach, right? Because like what I've learned is that a lot of people unfortunately are getting divorced. They're all going through the same kind of demons. They're all the same different monsters that I went through. And the only thing I could tell them is, you know what? This is what I learned. This is how I handled it. And these were the mistakes that I made, that if I could do it all over again, this is what I would do, right? That's kind of like I always tell people. I'm like, number one, don't try to date anyone while you're going through a divorce because it's just not going to work out. It's just not, right? A lot of the times people feel like it's a liberation of just going out there and being single again. And it's not. At least if you have children, it definitely is not. Right. You put your kid first. They're the number one priority. Like I know that when I finally decided that I wanted to have a divorce, I asked a bunch of different men and women what they learned through the divorce process or what kind of advice they could give me. And a gentleman that I've known for over 26 years, he told me, he's like, just don't be a child support dad and a weekend dad. He's like, because I'll tell you one thing right now. He's like, my 23-year-old daughter and my 22-year-old son, throw it in my face that I wasn't there for certain moments. He's like, I was always provided. I've always paid my child support. I always paid my alimony. I was there to pick him up every other weekend. He's like, but I wasn't there for my daughter's first heartbreak. I wasn't there for my son when, they failed to win a football game or something like that, and he was down. Be there.
Yeah.
Don't just be a provider, be a father. And those are things now that I actually share with a lot of people that are going through. I had one of my buddies one time who was having a hard time with his wife, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I should." I was like, "You shut your mouth right now about a divorce." I'm like, "Because I'll tell you one thing right now. I've known you since we were 9 years old, and you ain't cut out for this divorce life. I tell you that right now." I'm like, because it's a completely different change. It's a selfless act that you have to really take on, where it's not about you, it's about your kid. It really is. You almost have to kind of put that on hold. Like, I still have a good time. I still, enjoy myself with my friends and everything when I don't have them on the weekends, but I still miss them on those weekends. It's like I was more ready to be a father than I was to be a husband.
Right.
That's for damn sure.
And that's, you know what? It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that, I think you have to dig deep and really determine what the why is of disputes. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do that, especially when there's kids involved. Say, oh, let's just stay together because it's better for the kids. It's like, well, what's the why of why you're fighting? And can you dig through that why to uncover where the disagreement truly lies? And then can you get past the disagreement to come to a common goal?
Right. And I think the one thing that I learned was you got to communicate before you get married, before you decide to create life together. One of my mentors used to always tell me the root of all conflicts are unmet expectations. And we didn't set those expectations, right? I'm a very ambitious person. I have these crazy goals and dreams. She didn't. So you got to have someone that's supportive of those dreams.
Could someone mark that one? Root of all? You heard it?
Yeah.
Root of all conflicts are unmet expectations.
All right.
And we didn't have those conversations. I just made an assumption. I'm going to provide her a great life, and we're going to have all the fine things in life, and why would she not be happy about it, right? And she had her own expectations of what she was expecting out of me, and we never had that discussion. But I'm lucky. I'm one of the luckiest men in the world because she's a great mother. She is. I'm a great father, and she's a great mother. I can never say a bad thing about her as a mother. She puts her best foot forward. She makes sure, that he was studying. The minute that we signed him up for daycare, he was way ahead of those other kids that were in there because she paid that much attention to him in that process of getting him to where he's at today. So I know that I did select the right mother for my child. Like I said, I was more in that hunt. I was 32 years old. I was like, I think I'm ready. I'm financially stable. I got a house in Glenview. I want to have a kid, But unfortunately, I treated it like a business. I looked for a woman who was educated, well-spoken, that I could be proud to bring home to my parents. And I did find her, right? She probably had the same thought process with me. But you have to build love. You have to have that relationship and those expectations first. And we probably had that, love or lust, whatever you want to call it, for the first couple of years. But you have to set those expectations and really tell yourself, hey, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. Are you in it to win it with me? Or what do you want? And are you willing to compromise? Because that's another thing with marriage. You got to compromise.
Yeah.
Right?
It's huge.
And if you don't compromise, it's not going to be successful.
It's going to fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relationship. It's a partnership. And in any partnership or relationship, no one's ever going to do what they want to do all the time. You're going to have to sacrifice for what the bigger cause is, which is the combining forces of two people or of a family. And okay, how do you look at all of that objectively and say, oh, well, I don't do this now, and that's going to affect this one, and then that's going to affect this one. How do I look at it here, take emotion out of it, and say, oh, well, here's how it's going to affect it overall. And I think you have to look at that in business, in families, across the board, man, for sure.
Absolutely.
So.
I come from a big Mexican family, right? My dad has 14 brothers and sisters. My mom has 8 brothers and sisters, and all of them had at least 3 kids, She comes from a smaller family where, it just was a little bit overwhelming as well, too, kind of dealing with that aspect of things, Yeah. And I remember one time I wanted to throw a party at the house, and she's like, we don't have enough space. I was like, we're Mexicans. Just all we need is some skirt steak on the grill and some drinks. And
cheddar.
Exactly. That's all we need. We'll figure it out through the yard, the house, the basement, wherever. And I'm like, you don't have to worry about that. But it's those expectations, It's we all come from different walks of life. I do feel like once you find the right partner who will take you for everything that you are and accept you for everything that you are, it makes a heck of a difference. For a while, as I was reaching different levels of success, you were kind of assimilating to that success, right? And I remember like an eye-opening moment for me was one time I was having an open house, with a real estate agent, and I was talking to her, and like, she told me she was going through a divorce, I was going through my divorce, and we just kind of started opening up, like having like a real heart-to-heart. We probably spent like about 2 hours just talking about, what was going on in our lives. And I remember her telling me, she's like, Javier, she's like, you should be this Javier more often. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you're human. She's like, every time that you came into our office or anything, she's like, you're always buttoned down, suited up, tied up, very corporate almost sense, because that was the role that I was taking, right? I was a senior VP at the bank, and I was coming in, kind of giving my presentations, and very business oriented, but not having that human touch
Element, right?
The human element. And she's
Why,
like,
why do you think you lacked that?
because I was surrounded in a room. I'll never forget, there was one time we were having a management meeting, and having our CEO, he's Harvard Business School, just surrounded by a lot of individuals with these high accolades, that I thought to myself, looking at their resume, you want to assimilate to that, right? So like when my dad like really focused on making sure that his sons didn't have an accent, because he was embarrassed a lot by his accent, or made fun of a lot for his accent. So assimilation is something that's been key to me. So as I was climbing the ranks and putting up some good numbers, you're all of a sudden you're surrounded by a group of ties, right? And you're assimilating to that. And before you know it, you could get lost in that. Whereas now, I'm really more of myself, and this is me. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's on you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to assimilate to anyone. I'm going to be real to myself. I'm a kid that I love hip hop. I love my Spanish music. I love my Beatles. John Taylor. You name it. I'm very, very diverse.
Yeah.
And I'm very real, and I don't care what anyone has to say or think about me. I know I sometimes rub people the wrong way. They're probably like, this guy's really cocky. It's not that I'm cocky. I'm just very assertive in what I can bring to the table, and who I am, just because I've paid my dues. And I'm not fake. I'm genuine. Yeah. When you're genuine, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's it.
And if you're putting a facade and assimilating,
lots to lose,
and all of a sudden, like, they come to your house and actually see the way you are, and it could really blow up in your face, right? So if you're going to do it, and if you're going to be all in, like I feel like I'm all in right now, you got to be genuine and be real to yourself. I'm probably the only one rolling around in Glenview sometimes with my Drake on or my Migos, whatever the hell I'm listening to. I got that on blast. Sometimes they're looking at me. My son's over at JCC in Northbrook, and that's a Jewish community school. That's what my ex-wife wanted for him, and I'm very glad that she picked that. I remember at first I was like, we're not even Jewish. Like, why are we putting our son there, right? And I'm a completely different dad than a lot of the other dads in that school, right? And but I make sure that my son's always looking good and looking sharp, properly groomed, and making sure that our representation is good in that community as well, right? Like I remember my mom used to always tell us, like clean up after ourselves, not litter or anything like that. I remember my brother, like if he would like litter or anything like that, and she would like slap him, she's like, this is why people talk bad about us. You know what I mean? She set those examples, those standards.
My mom was very similar to that, and trying to instill just the basics, the right thing to do. Like pick up the garbage. You're walking down the street, you see a cup on. There's a garbage right there 5 feet away. Pick it up, walk it to the garbage.
Yeah. It's just those little principles where I think it's very important.
So I will say one last quote. We brought up Martin Luther King earlier on. He's, again, one of the greatest orators. I think the greatest provokers of change, I think, in our history at least. And he said, one of the great liabilities of history is that all too many people fail to remain awake through great periods of social change. Every society has its protectors of status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent who are notorious for sleeping through revolutions. Today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, and to remain vigilant and to face the challenge of change. I mean, that's powerful. I think that when we look at what we're trying to do as an organization, we're truly trying to go into organizations and erase stereotypes. I don't quote many people that I've met. A lot of times it's people I haven't met. But Anna's brother, Cesar Munoz, had a great quote. And it was, he wants to change mindsets to erase stereotypes. And I think that really resonates with what we're trying to do, not only from the for-profit that I work for at Purpose Workforce Solutions, where we're trying to change the staffing mindset, but also from a social perspective and how people look at other people that are of different color to them, right? And then more importantly, how you look at yourself while you're trying to embark on this journey of success, right? And how you value yourself, and then how you take yourself from zero value, like we did with the start of this podcast, to changing to some value in whatever way you feel is valuable, right? But how do you go from zero, where a lot of people's mindsets are, they feel like they have very little value to bring because they haven't learned how to transition, this is what I'm good at, to this is what I can monetize on, right? So that's really what we're trying to do with our festivals, I think with our episodes. Obviously, we appreciate you coming on, and we want to bring people on like you that have gone through bullshit, man.
Yeah.
But that have stayed true to what they know that they're good at, and with also the people around them that they know that they want to be around. And I think that's hard to do as we grow, as people, as we change and try and be a chameleon in our environments. I think it's important that we also still make sure that we have a voice.
Absolutely. And I would say aligning yourself with people who have the same vision as well, too. Like, I remember when I first got to my organization, it was a very white Republican organization, per se. A lot of people used to say that. A lot of the minority employees used to feel that way. And to take a look at, I used to joke around with our chairman. I was like, what can Brown do for you? Right? The UPS slogan. But right now, we've gone through so much change and we've diversified so much where that pendulum has actually swung. There's a lot of African American and Latino infusion in that organization now, from the top down, executive leadership down as well too. I got a couple of my colleagues, Camilo Escalante, who's like heading the education piece with the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, along with Vittorio DeLuca, myself. We got a lot of people who have that same vision where, it's like the census tract right now knows that the Latino community is going to be something to be dealt with in this country, right? So now all of a sudden you have like all these big organizations, these big banks, who know all of a sudden they want to serve the Latino community. You don't want to serve. You want to take advantage of that census tract because that's where the money's at. But if we put ourselves in a leadership position, we can make sure that it's done correctly. And we can make sure that they're not raping and pillaging our community. Right? So it's not just of being, doing it alone or having a vision. You need help, right? So you got to align yourself with people who have the same goals, the same mindset as you, who are actually going to put their best foot forward to provide change, and making sure as this change happens, that you're watching it and keeping the checks and balances in place, so that this way it's not something where they're just doing it for profit, right? I mean, we're not silly. We're not dumb. When you see all these, banks and everything, the NBA bankers conference or whatnot, and they're talking about the Latino community and, how they know the money is there, right? You got this wave of first generation, it's now second generation Latino, Americans, where they're educated, they're making money, they're going to have to invest that money. Real estate is the number one investment tool in this country and in the world. Right? That's why we do so many loans for foreign nationals who come and buy here in America. And they want a piece of that. So it's up to us as like Latino leaderships in those organizations to make sure that everyone is doing it the right way. And I'm very fortunate that we do have the proper aligned partners in leadership at our bank, people who have the same vision, and we're not going to sell ourselves out.
Awesome, man. And one more time, the bank that you're with, and just give the plug of...
The Federal Savings Bank, we're probably one of the largest veteran-owned banks in the country. We serve all 50 states because we're a bank. We were previously Chicago Bancorp, and we purchased an underperforming bank in 2011. Made it profitable within 6 to 7 months. That allowed us to be able to kind of expand our footprint and become the Federal Savings Bank. We probably employ more than 350 to 500 families now. And I always kind of say it's not even just about the executive leadership. It's about all of those families that make that place run. We provide the dream of home ownership to a lot of people. We're very, very centered around the first-time home buyer. We do a lot of down payment assistance grants to help people get into their homes. A lot of people sometimes think like, well, they don't have enough skin in the game. But if you really listen to some of the stories of some of these families that are coming in there, they're living check to check, not by choice in a lot of cases, but that's all they know. And some of us take that opportunity to kind of enlighten them and let them know that there's bigger possibilities and bigger probabilities for them to be able to advance and be able to become kind of tap into their entrepreneurial spirit. And sometimes they do need that helping hand to get their foot in the door. I get so many of my first-time home buyers who sometimes don't even have to make more than a $2,000 investment out of their pocket, but they're going to be paying less on their mortgage than they are on their rent, right? So we have a strong focus on that. I've been recruited by different organizations before asking me to come over and maybe start dealing with some of these high rises and $1.2 million property, 700. We call them slam dunk deals, because those clients usually have 750 credit scores and above, assets, good money. But in reality, we know that our sense is in those first-time home buyers in those communities that we're helping, because they're a bigger part of this population than that A+ paper.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, man, I've just, again, I can't express enough how appreciative I am of you just coming on the show, sharing just with people that haven't had to deal with some of the credit issues, but that should be aware of them, and then also people that are dealing with them and how they can deal with them better. And so now they know who to find, who to look out for.
Absolutely. Just look me up on Instagram, Javier Garcia _MB, or just Google Javier Garcia Mortgage, and I'll be the first person to pop up, and you'll probably have a couple pages of that. I've been doing this for 19 years. And I really want to thank you guys for the opportunity. I actually kind of had some jitters. I used to do Market Overdrive over in the Tribune Tower for about 2 years, and I had to step away when I was going through my divorce. And I told myself, I don't know why, I told myself I'm going to be back in front of the mic at some point in time, and now I'm here. And it's the beginning of some really cool stuff that I'm going to be doing. And tell everyone, just grab your popcorn.
We'll collaborate. It's going to be a hell of a show. We'll definitely collaborate on some other things.
For sure.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to be on Thursday, Greater Inglewood Community Development Corporation. They're having a community fair, a career fair, excuse me. Address is 815 West 63rd Street. There's also Tinley Park at the Convention Center, which is Tuesday, June 18th, next week. 18451 Convention Center Drive. Change is scary. You know what I mean? I think to all of us, it's not as scary as staying the same forever, though. So embrace change. Make the best of it. Understand your situation, and that no matter what situation you're in right now, it can get better. Even if it's the worst situation you've ever been in or the best situation you've ever been in. I think it can always get better. It's just about digging deep and really determining what's better for you, right, and living that out, right, day in and day out through discipline.
Be exciting.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my weight loss journey. Like, honestly, like, the one thing that took it to, like, a whole different level.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I was, like, had lost, like, 30 pounds. I was 30 pounds into the weight loss, right? I'm down 126 pounds total, right? And I was down 30 pounds. And I was on the treadmill, and I was pushing myself because I cheated the day before. And I'm a person, I talk to myself. I was like, you fat ass, you better run your 5 miles today. And this lady, really good-looking lady, right next to me on the other treadmill over at the export at the Brickyard, she laughed and she looked at me. She's like, "You're determined, kid." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, you're a good-looking boy." She's like, "Get that weight off. You're going to have the girls, lining up for you." And it's just, once you get a little bit of taste of that success for that change that you're trying to apply for yourself. I know it's scary, but could also be very exciting. Once you get a little bit of taste of that, you're like, you know what? I could do so much. I got to keep it going.
Got to get a taste, man. So as I always end it, I always want people to remember, if you don't put your passion first, it's hard to chase your dreams. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.